The UES Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Terralan system, and Captain Eric Thompson felt his heart sink at what he saw through the main view screen. The Krex Empire's assault fleet filled the space around the beautiful blue world like a swarm of metal insects. Massive Krex battlecruisers orbited the planet in a perfect formation, their heavy guns firing down at the surface. Where the energy beams struck, cities turned to glass and mountains melted like ice. Smaller Krex vessels chased fleeing civilian transports, destroying them one by one with casual cruelty. "Dear God," whispered Navigator Julie Adams from her station. "How many ships are there?" "Sensors count 47 Krex vessels," reported Weapons Officer Carlos Rivera. 12 battle cruisers, 20 destroyers, and 15 patrol ships. Eric felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His ship was powerful, but they were facing an entire battle fleet. "Any sign of Terraland defenders?" "Yes, sir," Julie replied. "I'm detecting what's left of their defense fleet hiding behind. The planet's largest moon. They're badly damaged." Eric opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Eric Thompson of the UES Defiance, calling any Terraland vessels." The response came quickly, filled with static and desperation. "Human ship. This is Admiral Tiershan of the Terraland Defense Force. You must leave immediately. The Krex have overwhelming numbers. We cannot protect you." "With respect, Admiral, we're not here to be protected," Eric replied. "We're here to help." A pause, then Admiral Tiershan's voice returned, confused. "Help? You are one ship against an entire Krex battle fleet. What can you possibly do?" Eric looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. 25 humans against thousands of Krex warriors. It should have been impossible odds. But Eric had faith in Dr. Amy Rodriguez's impossible ship. "Admiral, please move your ships to minimum safe distance. We're about to engage the enemy." "Captain Thompson, I must protest. This is suicide. Your people have just joined the galaxy. You should not throw away your lives for us." Eric smiled grimly. "Admiral, humanity has a saying, never tell us the odds." The UES Defiance moved toward the Krex fleet at quarter speed, approaching openly with no attempt at stealth. On every Krex ship, sensors detected the lone human vessel and dismissed it as no threat. What could one primitive ship do against the might of the Krex Empire? War leader Thokron commanded the Krex assault from his flagship, the Iron Fang. When his sensor operator reported the approaching human ship, Thokron barely looked up from his battle plans. "One ship?" he asked dismissively. "Yes, war leader. Small vessel, primitive design. Should we destroy it?" Thokron considered. "Let it come closer. When we finish with the planet, we can capture it. The humans will make good slaves. But the human ship did not behave like a primitive vessel should. Instead of fleeing or surrendering, it accelerated straight toward the nearest squadron of Krex destroyers. "Target the first enemy squadron," Eric ordered. "Carlos, fire when ready. Targeting 6 Krex destroyers," Carlos reported. "Probability cannons charged and ready." Fire. The UES Defiance's main guns spoke for the first time in combat. To Krex sensors, the shots seemed to miss completely. The projectiles appeared to fly wide of their targets, vanishing into empty space. Then the impossible happened. The projectiles materialized inside the Krex ship's hulls, bypassing shields and armor entirely. The quantum bullets had traveled through multiple probability states before choosing to exist inside their targets at the moment of maximum damage. 6 Krex destroyers exploded simultaneously, their reactors breached by weapons that had somehow appeared inside their most protected areas. On the Iron Fang's bridge, war leader Thokron stared at his displays in shock. "What happened to Squadron 3? "Unknown, sir," his sensor operator replied, voice shaking. "The human weapons seemed to miss, but then our ships exploded anyway." "Impossible. Show me the replay." They watched the sensor recordings 3 times, but the result was always the same. The human ship had fired weapons that missed their targets completely, yet 6 Krex warships were now debris fields. All ships, focus fire on the human vessel, Thukran ordered. Maximum firepower. 20 Krex ships turned their weapons toward the UES Defiance. Energy beams and missile salvos filled the space around the human ship, with enough destructive power to vaporize a small moon. Every shot struck the Defiance's shields and vanished. Shields at 112%, reported Engineering Officer Rachel Green from her station. The enemy attacks are making us stronger. Eric watched his displays with amazement. Dr. Amy Rodriguez's adaptive shielding was working exactly as designed. Each enemy attack was analyzed, absorbed, and used to strengthen the ship's defenses. Carlos, return fire. All weapons. The Defiance's probability cannons fired again, this time targeting the entire front line of Krex ships. To the Krex, it looked like the human ship was firing randomly in all directions. Then 12 more Krex vessels exploded as quantum projectiles materialized inside their hulls. War leader Thokran felt fear for the first time in his military career. In less than 5 minutes, one human ship had destroyed 18 Krex vessels without taking any damage. "What kind of weapons are those?" he demanded. "We don't know, sir," his science officer replied. "They appear to ignore our shields completely. The projectiles somehow exist inside our ships without passing through the hull. And our weapons? No effect. The human shields seem to absorb our attacks and grow stronger." On the Defiance's bridge, Eric was learning to fight with technology that operated by impossible rules. "Julie, engage quantum displacement drive. Let's show them what else we can do." The UES Defiance suddenly appeared in 3 different locations at once. To Krex sensors, it looked like the human ship had instantly multiplied into identical copies, each one firing its devastating weapons. The quantum echoes of the ship attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Krex vessels found themselves under fire from directions that should have been empty space. Their formation collapsed as ships tried to target enemies that existed in several places at the same time. "This is not possible," War Leader Thokran said, watching his fleet being torn apart by physics that made no sense. "How can one ship be in multiple locations?" His communications officer looked up from his station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human ship." "Put it through." Captain Eric Thompson's voice filled the Iron Fang's bridge. "War Leader Thokran, this is Captain Thompson. Your attack on the Terralan Republic ends now. Withdraw your forces immediately. You are one ship against my entire fleet," Thokran replied, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Look at your tactical display," Eric said calmly. "Count how many ships you have left." Thokran looked at his screens and felt his blood run cold. In 10 minutes of combat, the human ship had destroyed over half his fleet. His mighty armada was being defeated by a single vessel using weapons and defenses that operated outside known physics. "What are you?" Thokran asked. "We're humans," Eric replied, "and we don't like bullies." The remaining Krex ships opened fire with desperate fury, pouring everything they had at the impossible human vessel. The UES Defiance absorbed every attack, its shields growing brighter and stronger with each hit. Then Eric saw something on his sensors that made him smile. "Carlos, target coordinates 77 Mark IV, the big one." "Sir, that's empty space." "Not for long." At the coordinates Eric had specified, space suddenly tore open like fabric. Through the quantum rift emerged the pride of Krex, War Leader Thokran's personal dreadnought and the most powerful warship in the Krex fleet. The massive vessel was 3 times the size of any other ship in the battle, armed with weapons that could crack planets. Its shields had never been penetrated, its armor had never been breached. It represented the ultimate expression of Krex military power, a ship that had conquered star systems and broken the will of entire civilizations. Eric looked at the monster, ship on his display, and felt no fear. "Carlos, All weapons. Let's end this. The final battle was about to begin. Deep in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, inside a hollowed-out rock that official records claimed was empty, the most ambitious project in human history was taking shape. Dr. Amy Rodriguez floated in the center of the hidden construction bay, watching her impossible dream become reality. The ship looked nothing like the elegant vessels that other species built. Where alien ships were smooth and curved, this one was angular and harsh. Where they gleamed with polished surfaces, this one was dark and industrial. To alien eyes, it would look crude and primitive. That was exactly what Amy wanted. "The frame is complete," reported Craig Thompson, the ship designer who had spent months creating blueprints for something that shouldn't exist. "All the major systems are ready for installation." Linda Davis, the master builder overseeing construction, wiped sweat from her forehead. "I've built a lot of ships in my career, but never anything like this. Every system comes from a different species, but somehow they all fit together." Amy smiled as she watched workers install the hybrid power systems that Tony Martinez had perfected. The ship's heart would be a fusion of Zephyrian power cores, Krex energy matrices, and human engineering that created more energy than any ship in the galaxy had ever possessed. "How are the weapons coming along?" Amy asked Dr. Helen Parker, who was overseeing the installation of the ship's armaments. "Better than I hoped," Helen replied. "Steve Adams and I have created something we're calling probability cannons. They fire projectiles that exist in quantum superposition until the moment they hit their target." Amy raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean in simple terms?" Steve Adams, the ballistics expert, grinned. "It means our weapons fire bullets that are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The enemy can't dodge them because the bullets don't have a fixed location until they decide to hit something." "That's impossible," Amy said. "So is everything else we've built," Helen replied. "But it works. We tested it on asteroid targets. Every shot hits perfectly, no matter how the target moves. The ship's defensive systems were equally revolutionary. Nancy Kim had worked with physicist Danny White to create what they called adaptive shielding. The system used modified Alteran shield generators combined with Krex temporal technology and human computer systems. The shields don't just block attacks, Nancy explained as she ran diagnostics. They learn from each hit. Every time something strikes the shield, the system analyzes the weapon and instantly adapts to defend against it better. "And if the same weapon type hits again?" Amy asked. "The second shot does less damage than the first. The third shot does even less. By the fourth or fifth hit, the shield is almost immune to that weapon type." Danny White looked up from his console. "But here's the really amazing part. The shield doesn't just defend. It can absorb energy from attacks and redirect it back at the enemy. Their own weapons become our weapons." The propulsion system was perhaps the most incredible breakthrough of all. Tony Martinez had worked with his assistant Rachel Green to combine Alteran gravity manipulation, human electromagnetic principles, and Zephyrian quantum tunneling effects. "We call it quantum displacement drive," Tony explained to Amy during one of her inspection tours. "The ship doesn't just move faster than other vessels. During combat, it can exist in multiple locations at the same time." "Multiple locations?" Amy asked. "The ship creates quantum echoes of itself," Rachel added. "To enemy sensors, it looks like several identical ships are attacking from different directions. But it's really just one ship using quantum mechanics to be in several places at once." As construction continued, the team faced their greatest challenge yet. Krex intelligence operative Sektar had been investigating unusual energy readings from human space. Commander Jake Sullivan's security chief, Ben Carter, reported increasing alien surveillance around Earth's outer systems. "They're getting suspicious," Ben warned during a secure meeting. "Sektar has been asking questions about our power consumption and material shipments." Jake Sullivan made a difficult decision. "We need to create distractions, start some fake projects in other locations. Make it look like we're working on multiple different things. Amy didn't like the deception, but she understood the necessity. If the consortium discovered their project before it was complete, humanity's chance to prove itself would be lost forever. Captain Eric Thompson, Craig's brother and the ship's designated pilot, arrived for his first tour of the vessel. Eric had commanded patrol ships around Earth's solar system, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw in the hidden construction bay. "This is really going to work?" Eric asked, as Amy showed him through the ship's corridors. "All our tests say yes," Amy replied, "but we won't know for certain until we try it in real combat." "And when will that be?" Amy's expression grew serious. "Sooner than we hoped. Intelligence reports show the Krex Empire is preparing for a major offensive. They're targeting the Terralan Republic." Eric had heard of the Terralans. They were one of the consortium's founding members, a peaceful species that had never fought a war in their recorded history. If the Krex attacked them, it would mean billions of innocent deaths. "What's the consortium planning to do about it?" Eric asked. "Nothing," Amy said bitterly. "They'll issue statements and call for peace talks, but they won't send military aid. The established powers would rather let newer civilizations destroy each other than risk their own positions." In the ship's main corridor, Eric met his crew for the first time. Navigator Julie Adams would plot courses through space, using systems that combined the best navigation technology from 5 different species. Weapons Officer Carlos Rivera would control the probability cannons that could strike targets across impossible distances. "How big is our crew?" Eric asked. 25 people, Amy replied. "It should take hundreds to operate a ship this size, but our automated systems can handle most functions. Every person on board is essential." The ship's bridge was a masterpiece of hybrid technology. Human-designed controls interfaced with alien computers in ways that created capabilities no single species had ever achieved. The captain's chair sat in the center, surrounded by stations that could monitor and control systems from across the galaxy. "What are we calling her?" Eric asked as they stood on the bridge. Amy smiled. "UES Defiance. It seemed appropriate." 3 weeks later, Crisis arrived exactly as Amy had predicted. Long-range sensors detected massive Krex fleet movements toward Terralan space. The attack would begin within days, and the consortium's response was predictable. Official protests and private inaction. Commander Jake Sullivan called an emergency meeting in his office. Amy, Eric, Helen, Tony, and the other key team members gathered around his desk. "The Krex offensive begins in 72 hours, Jake announced. "Consortium intelligence estimates that the Terralan homeworld will fall within a week. Billions of civilians will die. And the consortium will do nothing," Amy said. "Correct. Which means if anyone is going to help the Terralans, it has to be us." Eric leaned forward. "The ship is ready. My crew is trained on simulators for months. We can launch whenever you give the order." Jake looked around the room at the faces of humanity's brightest minds. "This decision will change everything. Once we reveal our capabilities, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see humanity the same way again." "Good," Helen said firmly. "I'm tired of being treated like children." Tony nodded in agreement. "The aliens gave us their garbage because they thought we were too primitive to do anything. Dangerous with it. Time to prove them wrong." Amy stood up. "How long until the ship is completely ready?" 48 hours, Linda Davis replied from the construction reports. "Then we launch in 48 hours, Jake decided. "Captain Thompson, prepare your crew. Dr. Rodriguez, make final preparations on all systems. We're going to war." As the meeting ended, Amy looked out Jake's window at the stars. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was about to be destroyed while the galaxy's most powerful species watched and did nothing. But humanity would not watch. They would act, and they would do so with a ship built from alien garbage that had become the most advanced warship in the galaxy. The UES Defiance was ready to show the universe what humans could accomplish when everyone expected them to fail. 6 months had passed since the Zephyrians delivered their gift of alien scrap to Orbital Platform 7. Dr. Amy Rodriguez stood in the deepest section of the space station, in a workshop that officially did not exist. Around her, the brightest minds on Earth worked on projects that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. "Amy, you need to see this," called Tony Martinez from across the room. The chief engineer had grease on his hands and excitement in his voice. He stood next to a device that hummed with barely contained energy. Amy walked over to Tony's workstation. 6 months of careful experimentation had taught her team things about alien technology that the aliens themselves had never discovered. The device on Tony's table looked like a mess of wires and crystals, but Amy knew better. "I connected 3 Zephyrian power cores to 2 Krex energy matrices," Tony explained. "According to everything we know, this should be impossible. The power systems use completely different principles." "But it works," Amy said, reading the energy output on her scanner. The numbers made her heart race. "It works better than it should," Tony replied. "The cores aren't just sharing power with the matrices. They're making each other stronger. The total output is 5 times what we should get from adding the parts together." Dr. Helen Parker looked up from her own workstation, where she was studying weapon systems. "It's the same thing I'm seeing with the defensive systems," she said. "When I connect damaged Alteran shield generators to human power sources, something amazing happens." Helen activated her demonstration device. A shimmering blue field appeared in the air above her table. She picked up a small metal ball and threw it at the field. Instead of bouncing off or passing through, the ball seemed to slow down and drift to one side. "The field doesn't just stop projectiles," Helen explained. "It bends space around itself. Anything fired at it gets redirected. But here's the really interesting part. She fired a small laser at the shield. The red beam struck the field and vanished completely." "Where did the energy go?" Amy asked. "Into the shield generator itself. The system absorbs the attack and uses that energy to make itself stronger. The more someone shoots at it, the more powerful it becomes." Kevin Brooks, the young genius who had started this whole project, was working with components that came from 4 different alien species. "I think I understand why the aliens never figured this out," he said. Amy walked over to Kevin's station. The young man had always been able to see patterns that others missed. "Each alien species is proud of their own technology," Kevin continued. "They think their way is the best way. So they never try mixing their systems with other species' equipment." "But humans are different," Amy said, understanding where Kevin was going. "Right. We've always been good at taking things apart and putting them back together. We don't care if something is Zephyrian or Krex or Alteran, we just care if it works." Their conversation was interrupted by an alarm. Nancy Kim, the communications officer, hurried into the workshop with a worried expression. "We have a problem," Nancy said. "Consortium inspectors are coming for a surprise technology compliance check. They'll be here in 2 hours. Amy felt her stomach drop. The Galactic Consortium had strict rules about technology sharing. Newer species like humanity were only allowed to study approved materials under careful supervision. If the inspectors discovered their secret project, it could mean the end of Earth's membership in the consortium. "How much time do we have?" Amy asked. "Commander Sullivan is trying to delay them, but not long," Nancy replied. Amy looked around the workshop. Months of work filled every table and shelf. Revolutionary discoveries that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. All of it had to disappear in less than 2 hours. "Everyone listen," Amy said loudly. "Emergency protocol. Hide everything important. Make this look like a basic learning workshop." The team moved with practiced efficiency. They had prepared for this possibility. Within an hour, the advanced hybrid devices were hidden in secret compartments. The workshop was filled with simple, broken alien components and basic human tools. Tony set up a demonstration that showed humans struggling to understand a simple Zephyrian power cell. Helen arranged her weapons research to look like failed attempts to copy basic alien designs. Kevin hid his most important work and replaced it with elementary projects that any student could understand. Commander Jake Sullivan arrived with the inspection team just as Amy finished hiding the last piece of evidence. The lead inspector was a tall, silver-skinned Alteran named Inspector Kethmol. Behind him came representatives from 3 other species, all looking bored and slightly annoyed. "Dr. Rodriguez," Inspector Kethmol said in his cold, precise voice, "we are here to evaluate your progress in understanding the educational materials provided by the Zephyrians." "Of course," Amy replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're grateful for this opportunity to learn." The inspection team walked through the workshop, examining Amy's carefully prepared displays. They saw exactly what they expected to see: primitive humans fumbling with technology far beyond their understanding. "This power cell," Inspector Kethmol said, pointing at Tony's demonstration. "You have been studying it for 6 months?" "Yes, sir," Tony replied. "We're still trying to understand the basic principles." The inspector picked up Tony's jury-rigged device, which was designed to look crude and inefficient. "Your connection. Methods are very primitive," he observed. "We're doing our best with human technology," Tony said humbly. What the inspector didn't know was that Tony's primitive device was actually a testing platform for revolutionary new power systems. The crude-looking wires and simple connectors were hiding breakthrough discoveries that would have shocked the entire consortium. Inspector Kethmol moved to Helen's station. "You have been attempting to study defensive systems," he noted. "Yes, but without much success," Helen replied. "We can't seem to understand how the shield generators work." Helen activated her demonstration shield, which was designed to flicker and fail randomly. The inspector nodded with satisfaction. "This is normal," he said. "Shield technology requires centuries of development. Perhaps in a few hundred years, your species will understand the basic concepts." Behind the inspector's back, Helen caught Amy's eye and smiled slightly. If only he knew that in the hidden workshop below, Helen had already created shield systems that surpassed anything the consortium had ever built. The inspection continued for 3 hours. The alien officials examined everything they could see and found exactly what they were looking for: proof that humanity was still a primitive, struggling species that posed no threat to the established order. "Your progress is adequate for such a young species," Inspector Kethmol announced finally. "Continue your studies. Perhaps in another decade, you will achieve basic understanding." After the inspectors left, Amy's team gathered in Commander Sullivan's office. The stress of hiding their true work had left everyone exhausted. "That was close," Nancy said. "Too close." "How much longer can we keep this secret?" Helen asked. Amy looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krex Empire was building its military forces. Intelligence reports suggested they were planning something big, and the consortium seemed unwilling to stop them. "Long enough," Amy said finally. "We're close to a major breakthrough. Kevin's work on combining multiple systems is almost ready for full-scale testing." "What kind of testing?" Jake asked. Amy turned back to the group. "We're going to build something that's never existed before. A ship that uses the best technology from every alien species we've studied. But we're going to combine it all in ways that no one has ever attempted." "That sounds impossible," Ben Carter said. "6 months ago, everything we've accomplished would have seemed impossible," Amy replied. "The aliens think they gave us garbage, but we've turned their garbage into the foundation for something that could change everything." Tony leaned forward. "What's our next step?" "We start building," Amy said. "And we do it in complete secrecy, because if the consortium finds out what we're really capable of, they'll never let us finish." Outside the window, Earth continued its slow rotation, peaceful, and unaware that its children were about to attempt something that would reshape the galaxy. Commander Jake Sullivan floated near the massive viewing port of Orbital Platform 7, watching the alien ships approach Earth's newest space station. The sleek vessels moved with the grace of swimming fish, their blue hulls gleaming under the distant sun's light. He had seen Zephyrian ships before, but they still amazed him with their beauty. "Sir, the delegation is requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from the communications console behind him. "Grant it," Jake replied, straightening his uniform. Today marked an important day for humanity. The Zephyrians had promised to bring gifts to help Earth's newest members of the Galactic Consortium learn about advanced technology. 20 years had passed since humanity first made contact with alien civilizations. 20 years since they learned that Earth was just a small backward planet in a galaxy full of advanced species. The other races had eventually allowed humans to join their great alliance, but everyone knew Earth was the youngest and weakest member. Dr. Amy Rodriguez arrived at the docking bay just as the Zephyrian shuttle touched down. She led Earth's team of scientists and engineers, the brightest minds humanity had to offer. Amy had spent her entire career studying alien technology, trying to understand how their amazing machines worked. "Remember," Amy told her team, "this is a learning opportunity. Whatever they bring us, we need to study it carefully and respectfully." The shuttle's doors opened with a soft hiss, and High Trader Vexthon stepped out. Like all Zephyrians, he was tall and thin, with smooth blue skin and large dark eyes. He wore flowing robes that seemed to shift color in the light. Behind him came a group of workers pushing large containers on floating platforms. "Commander Sullivan," Vexthon said with a bow. His voice carried the musical quality that all Zephyrians possessed. "Dr. Rodriguez, we are pleased to present these educational materials to your species." Jake shook the alien's hand, trying not to show his nervousness. "We're grateful for your generosity, High Trader. This will help our people learn so much." Vexathon's smile seemed kind, but Amy noticed something cold in his eyes. "Indeed, we have brought you items that even our most primitive colonies no longer use. Broken weapon parts, old shield generators, damaged engine components. Consider them practice. Materials for your engineers." The floating platforms moved past them, heading for the station's main cargo bay. Amy watched the containers with growing excitement. Even broken alien technology was far beyond anything Earth could build. "These are outdated by several centuries," Vexthon continued. "Most civilized species threw these designs away long ago, but perhaps your people can learn basic principles by examining how they were made." Amy felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she kept her voice steady. "We appreciate any chance to learn from more advanced civilizations." "Of course," Vexthon replied. "New species must start somewhere. Even we Zephyrians were once as primitive as humans are now." After the formal ceremony ended and the Zephyrians left, Amy and her team rushed to the cargo bay. The containers held more technology than Earth had ever seen in one place. Weapon barrels that could fire energy beams, crystal matrices that could store incredible amounts of power, metal alloys that were stronger than anything humans had ever created. "Look at this," said Tony Martinez, Amy's chief engineer. He held up what looked like a simple metal tube, but Amy's scanner showed it contained technology that Earth's best scientists couldn't understand. "They call this junk?" Peter Walsh, one of the materials experts, was examining a cracked shield generator. "This is still working," he said in amazement. "Even damaged, it's more powerful than our best defensive systems." Carol Jenkins had found containers full of computer chips and data storage devices. "Some of these still have information on them," she reported. "Design specifications, technical manuals, engineering guides." Amy walked through the cargo bay, her mind racing. The aliens thought they were giving humanity garbage, but she saw something different. These weren't just broken machines. They were pieces of a puzzle that no one had ever tried to solve. "Dr. Rodriguez," called Kevin Brooks, the youngest member of her team. At barely 25, Kevin had already shown incredible skill at understanding alien technology. "You need to see this." Kevin had connected several different components together with human-made cables. A soft blue glow emanated from the jury-rigged device. I linked a Zephyrian power core to a Krex energy matrix, and something amazing happened. They're not just working together. They're making each other stronger. Amy stared at the device. In 20 years of studying alien technology, she had never seen anything like this. The different alien systems seemed to be talking to each other, sharing power and information in ways that shouldn't be possible. The aliens never do this, Amy said quietly. Each species uses only their own technology. They never mix different systems together. Maybe they think it's impossible, Kevin suggested, or maybe they never tried. 3 days later, Jake Sullivan called Amy to his office. Through the large windows, they could see Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. "What's your assessment of the Zephyrian gift?" he asked. Amy sat down across from his desk. "They think they gave us garbage, but they're wrong. This technology is incredible, even broken. But more importantly, I think we can do something with it that no alien species has ever attempted." "What do you mean?" "Every alien civilization we've met uses only their own technology. Zephyrians use Zephyrian systems, Krex use Krex systems, and so on. But humans are different. We've always been good at taking things apart and putting them back together in new ways." Jake leaned forward. "You're talking about combining different alien technologies?" "Exactly. Kevin proved it's possible. We could take the best parts from each system and create something entirely new. Something that's never existed before." "That sounds dangerous." Amy nodded. "It is. But it might also be humanity's chance to build something that can compete with the established powers. The consortium treats us like children because our technology is so primitive. But what if we could build something better than what they have?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. Reports from across the galaxy showed increasing tensions. The Krex Empire was making threatening moves toward peaceful systems. Some consortium members seemed more interested in protecting their own power than in stopping aggression. "What would you need?" he asked finally. "Time, space, and secrecy. If the other species knew what we were attempting, they might try to stop us. They like keeping humanity in its place." Jake made his decision. "You have whatever you need, Dr. Rodriguez. But I want regular reports, and this project stays between us and your core team." Amy stood up, excitement building in her chest. "Thank you, sir. I promise you won't regret this." As Amy left his office, Jake looked out at Earth again. Humanity had always been underestimated. Throughout history, humans had survived and thrived by being clever, adaptable, and stubborn. Maybe it was time to show the galaxy what those qualities could accomplish. In the cargo bay, Amy's team was already hard at work. They had no idea they were about to begin the most important project in human history. They thought they were just studying alien junk. They were wrong. Admiral Vex Corlin had lost more than half his fleet, but his pride would not let him retreat. In a final desperate move, he gathered his remaining ships for a direct assault on Earth itself. If he could destroy the human homeworld, the scattered, human ships would have nothing left to fight for. "All remaining vessels, form attack formation," Corlin ordered. "We will burn their planet to ash. No more games, no more surprises. Pure firepower will win this battle." Commander Thais Varen looked worried as she watched the tactical display. "Admiral, we only have 200 ships left. The humans have proven very resourceful." "Resourceful or not, they cannot stop every weapon we fire," Corlan replied angrily. "Begin planetary bombardment." But Admiral Corlin had made his final and greatest mistake. He assumed that Earth's defenses were only military bases and space stations. He had no idea that every human settlement, from the largest cities to the smallest towns, had been armed with Dr. Carter's quantum weapons. Teacher Mary Collins had never thought she would fire a weapon in battle. She taught second grade at a school in Kansas, thousands of miles from any military base. But when the alien ships began their final attack, She found herself at the controls of a quantum cannon hidden beneath her school. "This is for my students," Mary said, as she fired at an alien cruiser passing overhead. The quantum beam cut through, the ship's armor like it was made of paper. Farmer Bill Henderson was harvesting corn when the battle began. Now he was using quantum missiles launched from silos hidden in his wheat fields. "Nobody threatens my family," he muttered as he targeted another alien ship. Even college student Tim Rogers was fighting from his dormitory. Hidden weapon systems emerged from buildings across the campus as students and professors joined the battle for Earth's survival. The aliens were stunned. They had expected to attack a planet with a few military bases. Instead, they found themselves facing an entire world where every citizen was a potential warrior. "Admiral, we're taking fire from everywhere," reported General Quinn Zeltar. "Schools, farms, hospitals, even shopping centers are shooting at us. How is this possible?" "It's not possible," Corlan insisted, but his voice was shaking. "No civilization arms its civilians." Captain Jake Morrison smiled as he watched the planetary defense grid activate from his position aboard the USS Liberty. "They still don't understand us," he told Amy Stewart. "They think weapons make people dangerous. They don't realize that people make weapons dangerous." The coordinated attack from Earth's surface was devastating. Every alien ship that came within range found itself under fire from hundreds of hidden weapons. The quantum technology that Dr. Carter had developed was now in the hands of millions of ordinary humans who were defending their homes. But the real surprise came when Admiral Corlin's flagship tried to escape the chaos. Captain Jake Morrison had been waiting for this moment. Using the quantum communication network, he coordinated with pilot Alex Turner and cyber warfare expert Lucas Gray for one final strike. "Alex, Elena, take your squadrons and disable their engines," Jake ordered. "Lucas, are you ready to shut down their computer systems?" "Ready, Captain," Lucas replied. "Once their systems are down, they won't be able to fight back." The attack was perfectly executed. Alex Turner's fighters struck the alien flagship's engines, while Elena Vasquez's squadron destroyed their weapon systems. At the same moment, Lucas Gray's virus shut down every computer on the ship. Admiral Corlin found himself trapped on a powerless ship surrounded by human vessels. For the first time in his long military career, he was forced to surrender. "This is Captain Morrison of the USS Liberty," Jake announced over the radio. "Admiral Corlin, your ship is disabled and your fleet is defeated. Surrender now, and we will treat your people with respect." Corlan stared at the human captain on his view screen. This young human had defeated the greatest military commander in Zephyrian history. "How?" was all he could say. "You studied our technology and our military, but you never studied our people," Jake replied. "You thought you could scare us into giving up our home. You were wrong." The surrender of the flagship was the signal for other alien ships to give up the fight. Lieutenant Commander Zara Keth was one of the first to lower her weapons. She had been watching human tactics throughout the battle and had learned to respect their determination. "Commander Veran," Zara said over the radio to her superior, "we should surrender. These humans have beaten us fairly." This Veran looked at the destruction around her and nodded slowly. "All ships, cease fire. We surrender to the human forces." In the aftermath of the battle, something unprecedented happened. Many alien officers, led by Zara Keth and Jex Morlan, asked to meet with human leaders. They had questions about how humans organize their society and military. "Your soldiers think for themselves," Zara observed during a meeting with Colonel Chris Barnes. "In our empire, soldiers only follow orders. How do you maintain discipline?" "We don't maintain discipline," Chris replied with a smile. "We build trust. When people trust each other and believe in their cause, they fight harder than any forced obedience could make them." Dr. Helen Carter found herself working with alien scientists who wanted to understand quantum technology. But more importantly, They wanted to understand how human scientists shared ideas so freely. In the Zephyrian Empire, scientific knowledge belongs to the state, explained one alien researcher. How can you share your discoveries with everyone? Because science belongs to everyone, Dr. Carter replied. When we share knowledge, we all become stronger. The most important meetings took place between Admiral Kevin Brooks, General Patricia Hayes, and the defeated Admiral Corlin. The human leaders had a proposal that would change the galaxy forever. We know about the other species your empire has conquered, Admiral Brooks said. We want to help them become free. Why would you do that? Corlin asked. You have defeated us. You could build your own empire. Because that's not who we are, General Hayes replied. We don't want to rule other species. We want them to rule themselves. And so began the Great Liberation. Using captured alien technology and ships, Earth reached out to the 47 worlds that had been conquered by the Zephyrian Empire. One by one, these worlds were freed as human fleets arrived to help them fight for independence. Some alien worlds chose to join a new alliance with Earth. Others preferred to remain independent but friendly. A few even asked for help building. Democratic governments like the ones humans used. Captain Jake Morrison found himself commanding a mixed fleet of human and alien ships. His crew now included former enemies like Zara Keth, who had chosen to fight alongside humans rather than return to the old empire. Captain, Amy Stewart reported from her communications station, we're receiving a message from the planet Zerion. They're asking for help overthrowing their Zephyrian governors. Set course for Zerion, Jake ordered. It's time to free another world. The final scene of the Great War took place in the United Nations building in New York. But now the chamber included representatives from dozens of alien species who had been freed from the Zephyrian Empire. Captain Morrison stood at the podium, looking out at an audience that included humans and aliens working together. Today, we have learned the most important rule in the galaxy, he said. Freedom is not something you can take by force. It must be chosen, defended, and shared. Admiral Corlin sat in the audience, no longer a prisoner but not yet fully trusted. He was learning about democracy and individual rights, concepts that were completely foreign to someone raised in an empire. The galaxy has many different species, Jake continued, but we all share one thing. We all deserve the right to choose our own destiny. Earth will help protect that right for anyone who asks for our help. The Zephyrian Empire was finished, but something better had taken its place. A galaxy where cooperation replaced conquest, where different species learned from each other instead of trying to dominate each other. And at the center of it all was a small blue planet whose people had refused to surrender when faced with impossible odds. Earth had proven that there was indeed one rule aliens should never break, underestimating the determination of humans defending their home. The galaxy would never be the same.